pressure I feel growing inside of me because I'm far away from you, knowing that you are my source, so I gotta find my way. I see no light in front of me. Come to the conclusion that you are the eyes that see past all confusion to a place called sanity. You take my hand, I'm free.
All right, I got to find my way back to you. Got to find my way back to you. Yeah. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're listening to this episode of Truly Foundation and A Course in Miracles. Hi, my name is Oliver Blue, and I am your temporary guide, your temporary host and coach. And I'm delighted to be here. And it is certainly time that we find our way back home. I love that song. And so today we're going to look at workbook lesson 121, which is our first review lesson as we start this 20-day review. As I mentioned in our previous session, that the next 20 days will be concentrated on reviewing the last 20 workbook lessons, the 20 ideas, the 20 thoughts. And it's good to review because we know how the mind works. And so we want to remind the mind of the truth that is true always, as often as possible. And remember that our goal in these workbook lessons, these reviews, these 20 reviews that we're going to do, is to take one idea each day and practice it as often as possible. Each one of these ideas contain the whole curriculum if understood, practiced, accepted, and applied to all the streaming all the seeming happenings throughout your day. So we want to use 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon to review the ideas for today. And there's a central theme that will be used for each day. One central theme to help to support the idea that we are reviewing. And that central theme each day that we will connect with each thought, is this: I am not a body. I am free, for I am still. In other words, I remain as God created me. We will use this central theme for every lesson. And we encourage you during your day, as challenges arises, that you remind yourself of the truth that is true always by reinforcing the thought for the day. And we know that it is through repetition and through practice that is one of the most effective ways to bring remembrance to the truth of who we are. And so today's lesson, 101, we're going to start with our we're going to start with our central idea, and that is, I am not a body. We're going to hammer this home for 20 days because this is one of the hugest blocks to the awareness of our true identity, is that we believe that we are our physicality. We believe that we are our bodies. But we are not our bodies. I am not my body. You're not your body. Nobody is their body. It says, I am free. Freedom comes in knowing that you are not a body. Where there is a belief in body identification, there is not freedom. There's limitation. There's sin conscious fear and guilt and fear. Why? Because the body is the symbol of death. The body is a symbol of death. The body was created to be an attack on God, on God's ideas. The body was created to be a hiding place for the ego thought system. The body was made to be a substitute for that which is real, that which is timeless and formless. Just like time and space will eventually be done away with, so will the body. And so if our focus and our attention is on the mortal body, then our minds has this idea of birth and death that it will leverage against our reality and turn our focus away from our eternal self and have our focus placed on the limitations, the mistakes, the errors that we see in bodies. Thus, we become mindless because the body has no mind of its own. The body is neutral. The body is a figure in the dream. You might be saying, well, okay, Oliver, this is all I know. Well, it's not that that's all you know, is that may be all that you have been aware or made aware of up until this point. But as you listen to this thought that comes from God, this is the thought of God, that we are not bodies, but we're free. For we are still, or we remain as God created us. So the idea reads again like this: I am not a body, I am free. For I am still as God created me. Well, how did God create you? Jeremiah gives us an insight. The scripture in Jeremiah gives us an insight to the reality that uh, who we are without these bodies. If I ask you the question, well, who are you without your body? What would your response to that be? Just think about it. I know we avoid thinking about these things sometimes because we're very uncomfortable with thinking about our mortality. Not mortality, our mortal state. And so we just find other things to focus on, to take our attention. We try to find answers. We try to find that place of centeredness in other things, but they're not in other things. They're only in the one place where God placed them, and that's in you. And when I say you, we're not talking about your body self, but we're talking about your that self that you share with God, that self that we share with each other, the one self that exists, that we say God is. Therefore, we are, or I am. We're talking about your I am self, your infinite self, your eternal self, your timeless and formless self. In Jeremiah, God spoke to the prophet and said, before you were formed, Jeremiah, before you became form, before you became acquainted with time and with form, God said, I knew you before that. That means that Jeremiah existed before he took on any physicality, that he existed. And not only Jeremiah, but everyone. Jesus said to the religious people of his day, standing before them, he said, before Abraham was, I am. And they said, what are you talking about, dude? Abraham lived years ago. You just got here. But see, what Jesus was speaking from his place of original state. He was speaking from a place of metaphysics, beyond the physical, because Jesus knew that this experience he was having in the earth, in time and space, in a bodysuit, was only very, very temporal, very, very temporary. And so he said, before Abraham, Moses, Isaac, Jacob, for all of the prophets, all of everyone that came before him, he said, before them, I was. And that puzzled them. What do you mean, man? Jesus knew who he was. He knew he was not the body, but he remained that God created him as a formless and timeless eternal being, just like all of us. Jesus was no special case. He was just like you and me. But the difference is he knew what he was, and he only knew the truth. And he only knew it because he rejected everything else that was not the truth. And so as we go through these review lessons and we enter into practicing these exercises, like it says it is through our understanding that is practiced and accepted and applied to all the seeming happenings throughout the day, without any exception. It is that helps us to fuse or become one with that which is true. So what we've been asked to do here is the same thing our elder brother did. And he showed us the way. Jesus was a way shower to show us not only the truth of who we are, but also to show us how to navigate life, fulfilling the purposes of God, fulfilling the one purpose that we all share. Therein lies your peace, your joy, your happiness, your protection, your safety, your assurance, your certainty, your state of mind. Therein lies your prosperity, your inheritance, everything. He says life has no meaning without this understanding. So it starts out with understanding. He says, if understood, understanding simply means that we stand up under the point of view of the absolute, leaving our place of understanding and stand up under the perception of another. And in this case, we're talking about the absolute, the one, the creator God that we all share. When we see from God's perspective, we call it the mind of Christ or Christ's vision. Then we are standing up under the purity of light and we see things for what they are. It says once we understand, then we practice that understanding. We accept it and we apply it to all the seeming happenings in our life. And so, how did it says, for I am still as God created me. In other words, we can't change what God done. We can't change who we are. We can't change the fact that we are one with the reality that God is, that we are this intimate knowledge, that we are this one truth, that we are this one law, the law of God, that we are unalterable, meaning we can't be altered. Our original state can't be altered. It's secure. It also means that we are eternal, meaning we have no beginning and no end. There's no end to you. There's no beginning to you. You can't find a place where you begin, and you won't be able to find a place where you end. You say, but I have a birthday and a birth certificate and that proves that I began on this day. Well, no, that's the day you became aware of a body and your consciousness and your awareness. And what is the day that you, the real you, the eternal you, that's not the day that you started. You couldn't find your start date if you look for it a million years. So who we are can be unrecognized, but it can't be changed. We are changeless. We are everything that God created. Only God in love creates reality. So God in love is our reality. We are beyond who we are is beyond what can be learned. It is beyond time and space. It has no opposites, no beginning, no end. Who we are, we merely are. Or as it says here, we merely is. Presently, we are as God created us, and we can't change that. So this personal identification that we call Oliver or John or Mary or Sue, this is not the real you. The timeline, your personal history, it's not the real you. It's just what you have experienced or noticed or observed. As this one born of your mother's womb, like he told Jeremiah, I knew you before you incarnated in your mother's womb. And what incarnated in your mother's womb is not who you are. It's what you became aware of to operate in this realm, to go into the dream. And so that is the central theme in the foundation for which we're going to introduce today's review lesson, which is lesson 181. And it says, I trust my brothers. I trust my brothers. Who is my brother? Jesus says, as much as you did it to the least of these, my brethren. He said, you've done it to me. So all humanity is your brothers. All humanity, no exception. Zero exception. If there's one exception, then the universality of humanity has been broken. But that's impossible. And so we have to embrace the idea that all humanity is your brother. You are your brother's keeper. In other words, you affirm your brother's reality. You affirm that you are one with your brother by loving your brother, by affirming your brother, by affirming that in that oneness, the ideas that you have about your brother are the same ideas you have about yourself. They can't be different. The ideas that you have about God is the same ideas you have about what God created, which are your brothers. This takes looking beyond the body identification. See, if we can only see through our natural eyes, if we only acquiesce to the nature of our body self, and we can only see with our natural eye. We can only hear with our natural ear. We can only understand with our natural nature, which all of that is very limited. But when we embrace the reality that we remain this eternal self, that we share this one eternal self with God and each other, and that it is unlimited, and that we are beyond time and space, that we are everywhere present, just like our Father, and have access to the knowledge that is beyond this world, then now we can see beyond our brother's body, the physicality. We can see beyond our brother's errors and mistakes. It says, I trust my brothers who are one with me. And the trust is not in what the body identification does. The trust is in what God created. We trust that God created all of us equally in innocence and wholeness. All of us been brought forth as an idea of God. Like Paul said in Ephesians, holy and without blame, holy and without blame before God in love and each other. And so this trust, again, it's not in the body's eyes. This trust is not in the what we can hear naturally, what the world would tell us. This trust is not in what we can see. But the trust is in the reality that we are not bodies and that we are free. Free from the limitation of a body. Free from a false self. Free from the idea of birth and death. Free from, this world of perception, this world of duality. Free from time and space. Free from what comes and what goes. And so the trust is within what God created. It's always got to be in what God created. It can't be in what man made. It says, trusting your brother is essential to establishing and holding up your own confidence in your ability to transcend all doubt and all lack of sure conviction in yourself. When you attack a brother, you proclaim that he is limited by what you have perceived in him, a body. It says, you do not look beyond his errors. Rather, they are magnified. So in other words, you magnify the errors in your brothers. When we just look at their body activity, you magnify the error in your brothers. It says, and that magnification becomes blocks to your awareness of the self that lies beyond your own mistakes. So, when we can only see what we call errors and mistakes in others, what we're doing is we're placing a big, huge boulder in front of our own face. in front of our own real self. It's to the point that we can't see our true self because we have magnified the errors and the mistake in our brothers and passed his seeming sins as well as yours. So our perception has a focus. And until we change our focus away from the errors and the mistakes of others, we cannot see clearly. We cannot see our own self. For their mistakes, if focused on, are witnesses to sins in you. And you will not transcend their sight and see the sinlessness that lies beyond. So we seek for innocence and nothing else. We seek for it with no concern but now. And so what it's saying here is that when we focus on the errors and mistakes of another, it is only magnifying the mistakes in ourselves, and so we can't even see our true self. That's what I said earlier. The way you see your brother is the way that you're going to see yourself. The way you see yourself is the way you're going to see God. Jesus said it this way. Before you make a judgment on another, he said, remove the mote out of your, he said, remove the boulder out of your eyes. Before you're gonna remove the mote out of your brother's eye, remove the boulder out of your own eyes. So in other words, he was saying, you need to focus on you. You have enough of you got enough to deal with yourself, other than trying to fix someone else. He said, and as you do this, you're trusting in your own made up self. You're not trusting in what God created. You're not affirming in yourself, nor in your brother what God created. All you affirming and reproducing and magnifying in yourself is sin and guilt, sin consciousness, guilt and sin and fear. So we enter into a time of practicing with one intent. That is to look upon the innocence in your brother so that you see the innocence in yourself. So we need to instruct our minds to change their focus. As we say, it is not this that I would look upon. I trust my brothers who are one with me. And here is saying to trust your brother is to trust what God created and not what you have made or even what your brother has made. That is a miscreation, a misidentity. But we only trust what God has created. That's what God told Jeremiah. Jeremiah, I knew you before you was formed in your mother's womb. So I know who you really are. So to trust in our brother is to trust in God's creation, because that's what we see when we're looking through his point of view. We're looking from the understanding of that which God made is just like an unto himself. And we remain as God created us. Why? Because that which happens in our personal history, our timeline, it cannot touch, it cannot affect, it cannot impact the truth of who we are. It will only reflect who we are in truth, or it will reflect what we are made of ourselves, as to be a substitute of that which is true. And so we go back to lesson 201, where it says, I trust my brother, all my brothers who are one with me. So here we are affirming the one life that we all share, the one being that we all share, the one love that we all share, the one reality that we all share. When we acknowledge that we trust that one self, who is the one self that we all are. And so it says, no one but my brother. No one. It says, no one but is my brother. That means that everyone is your brother. It says, I am blessed with oneness. Notice now, I am blessed with oneness. That's what it means to be blessed. It's to understand that there is but the one, and we all share that one. So in that one, all things are given. All things are ours equally. And so there's nothing missing and nothing broken in the one that we share. It says, I am blessed with oneness with the universe and with God, my Father, who is one creator of the whole. That is myself. That what God created is your reality. It is your true self. It's not that which was incarnate and born into a body. But the affirmation here is that the oneness and the universality of God, our Father, the one creator of the whole, that is myself, forever one with me. To embrace this reality is the end of all seeking, all searching. You have found everything because you have found yourself. And where you find yourself, you're going to find God. And where you find God, you're going to find a world that has been made free. You're going to find all humanity that is made free. There's only freedom in your reality. There's only freedom in God. There's only freedom in all humanity. Only. When you look and see, not through the natural eye, but when you see through your eyes of awareness, your eyes of consciousness, through the mind that is the mind of Christ, the mind of God, you only see the one, and you are blessed in that oneness. You're not outside of the oneness. There's nothing outside of the oneness but prodigal roads, dreams of separation, vain imaginings, hallucinations, fantasies. But when you look through the eyes of oneness, Jesus said, to the pure, all things are pure. He says, only that pure heart shall see God and see the reality of each other. And what is that pure heart? That pure heart is the one that has embraced its original creation of God, which remain holy and innocent and complete and without spot, without wrinkle. That is who we are. This world has not changed that reality. All this world has done is distracted us from focusing on the real thing. But now we have shift our perception. We have turned away. We have given the world's gift back to it. We don't want to see through those eyes. We don't want to understand through that mind. But we have found We have discovered. We have recognized the truth that is true always, that we are not bodies, we're free, and we are still as God created us. And with that, we can trust now all humanity who are one with us. And no one but is our brother. And we are blessed with this oneness with the universe and with God, our Father and our Creator of the whole that is who we are. This is the self that we are, forever one with me and you. And so we're going to end today's lesson by going back to our central theme. I am not a body. I am free. Making sense now, right? Your freedom comes in knowing that you're not a body. It comes in knowing that you are part of this one self that God is. Therein lies your freedom. Therein lies everything that you could ever hope for. Therein lies your immortality. Therein lies your freedom from fear, your freedom from guilt, your freedom from sin consciousness. Therein lies your allegiance to this world. Therein lies what Jesus called the abundance life. He had come to demonstrate that we could have this life and have it how? Abundantly. But it comes through what? The knowledge, the understanding. And today we take all of that knowledge, we take all of that understanding, and we accept it as our own, and we apply it with every breath that we take, with every step that we take. And we see the goodness of God in this reality. So I trust my brothers who are one with me. It's that oneness that is, it says that oneness is the blessing. When you don't see the oneness that God created, when you don't see humanity as one and one with God and each other, when you have bought into the movie that this world plays in front of us every day, when we play into hatred, into separation and division and discrimination, intimidation, when we buy into that movie that's played out in front of us every day, so you're not free. You think you're justified in holding grievances. You think you're justified in not forgiving. You think you're justified into seeing people based on their race, based on their gender, based on their ethnicity, their nationality. You think that's more real than that which God created, and thus the suffering, and thus the pain, and thus the disappointments. But when we embrace the reality of oneness, the blessedness of oneness, that there is only the one, that God is, and there's nothing else. And so if God exists, and if I'm aware that God exists, then I am what God is, and God is what I am. And so there's no worries, man. There's no enemies. There's nothing to fear. There's no need to be anxious about the future. The future is now only. And in each moment, the future is then, right now. There's nothing in my past or nothing in the past that I should be concerned about, because the past is not real. It was just It was a moment and it was an experience, and then that's it. I can't live forward in the future. If I try to do that, that's just anxiety because I have no idea in each moment. But what I do know that right now in this present moment, that I stand in a place of honor. I stand in a place where God has what? The bestowed honor upon that which he created. And I will not attempt to substitute what God created for my own idea. And so I am the timeless and formless being that always is, just like my Father, just like you, just like all humanity. There's no exceptions. And so today, as we start our day, we spend some time in these thoughts, these ideas. Before we turn in tonight, we spend another suggested 15 minutes in these thoughts and these ideas. This is the way you renew the mind. This is the way the mind is renewed. This is the way the mind is transformed. This is the way the mind disengage from the conformity of this world and engages in the law of love. And then all during the day, as you are confronted with different things during the day, you remind yourself in those moments that you are not a body, you are free. You remain as God created you. And that your brother, who you love, you are one with that your brother, and you trust your brother because you trust what God created, because you are one with him. You remind yourself of these things because the world will want you to not trust your brother, not trust what God created, and to see through the limited lens of a body and the limitations of a body. And so each hour of the day, you remind yourself, I set my clock to go off each hour, and it reminds me to remind myself of who I am. And this is part of the renewal process. So here we are. That's our first review lesson, and it was good. Have a great day. And we'll be back on tomorrow for Workbook Lesson 202. And this is how we find our way back to the home that we never left, to the love that we never left. Practice well. Bye-bye.